I don't want the woo-woo, they say.
Oh, wake up, rethink the status quo. When you get your money right, then you're the one who runs your life. Come build a wealthy spirit with Sammy and Michelle.
Michelle, you know what I've been working on?
Tell me.
Breaking my patterns. I've realized that this is really the purpose of life, or at least my life, is to unbreak these patterns that lead to unnecessary stress, unnecessary suffering of me and others. And I've been meditating so that I can learn what these patterns are.
I also want to do more meditation, Sammy. I love what you're saying. And I realize even for myself, meditation is something that just helps me get back in my body. When I'm doing it consistently, I find myself a little bit more at peace. I find myself able to regulate my feelings a little bit more. I love that we are bringing back this interview with Andrew Johnson because I do think meditation is something that can really help so many people unlock so much within them. And Andrew Johnson speaks to that so well. And it's cool because he's an entrepreneur. He created the first meditation app. His is still the voice I listen to when I turn to meditation. I love his app that he launched. I use the law of attraction one. I, to be honest, really think that it helped me attract a lot of what I have right now. And this conversation we had with him, he was so kind. He was so insightful about not just meditation, about hypnosis. He's such a great person in this community.
I love this interview. He has such a great energy, which could be attributed to his self-work and meditations.
His story is super interesting, Sammy, and I'm excited to listen to it right now.
Let's get into it. Today, we have the privilege of talking with Andrew Johnson. For over 26 years, Andrew has made meditation and mindfulness techniques accessible to all using multiple forms of media, including self-guided recordings, which started out first as CDs and MP3s, guided meditations, apps, including the world's first meditation app, as well as online courses and workshops. Andrew has had over 17 million downloads and streams to date. He trained in clinical hypnotherapy in 1995 with the London College of Clinical Hypnotherapy in Glasgow. Andrew has also trained in EFT, emotional freedom technique, Reiki, stress management skills, and mindfulness meditation. Andrew practiced clinically for 17 years in hypnotherapy and other techniques before bringing his skills to the world audience. Andrew takes the mystery out of meditation, mindfulness, and other techniques to help people overcome anxiety, depression, insomnia, or simply to quiet the monkey mind so that people can obtain their full potential and reach their full sense of peace.
And furthermore, Sammy, I have been personally using Andrew Johnson's meditation apps for the last few years. I've recommended it to friends who've recommended it to their friends, which I think really speaks to the power of your voice, Andrew, and how it relates to such a diverse audience. Truly, from the bottom of our heart, we feel very privileged to have you on today. And we're so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the invite. I'm honored and flattered to be here.
Oh, thank you.
So to get started, Andrew, for people who may not be as familiar with your work or new to your work, we wanted to just start with how you got into meditation or your first exposure to meditation, when that really happened for you, if there's a place in your life that you remember dipping your toes in for the first time.
Sure. Well, it's a story I've told so many times. Back in the 70s, there was a real interest in martial arts with the Bruce Lee films. And even in Scotland, people were all wanting to learn martial arts. And I went with some school friends to do karate. And at the end of 50 minutes of kicking lumps out of one another, the teacher would do 5 minutes cool down of meditation.
Oh, wow.
And I do have a memory. I have a distinct memory of listening to my friends giggling in the corner. But me sitting there and thinking, I quite like this. I quite like what he's doing. It was unbelievably basic, but I remember it. And so from that age on, I sort of kept up a really informal meditation practice. And when I think back, it was so basic. I was just sitting, following my breath, not doing much else. But because I used it quite often. I would get into quite deep states of meditation. I probably actually didn't even call it meditation at that point. It was just something that I knew helped me when I was going through the struggles of life. So that was a long time ago. And then I decided to change career. I knew I wanted to do something in mental health. I found a great training organisation, as you said, the LCCH, and I did an 18-month diploma in clinical hypnotherapy. And the first day, when we were taken into what in hypnotherapy we call trance, I thought, oh my God, this is meditation. Oh my God, this is just the same. This is just exactly what I've been doing. So I just fell in love with the whole process. And of course, it's very different. Hypnotherapy is very different from meditation, but when you look at the actual state that people are in, that heavy, relaxed, almost sleeping state, it's very, very similar. So that was my start as a sort of professional teacher in 94 or 95.
Yeah, I mean, that's so wonderful that you got to start experiencing that at such a young age too.
Yeah.
As a child, I think we're not given a lot of coping mechanisms, and to have that is just, it really helps.
Very much so. I think it was, actually, I can't remember, it might have been the Dalai Lama that said if every child was taught meditation at the age of 5 or 6 or 7, in a couple of generations, we would have a different world.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think even if we were able to teach every adult now to get a little bit of experience in it.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people are shy to get started with meditation as well, or they misunderstand it.
Yeah.
They do. And it certainly was something that I started doing early on in my career, which you said in your beautiful introduction, it's to take the mystery out of it.
Yeah.
Because all these things come with baggage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who would benefit from meditation who perhaps work up the courage to go to a class and then find that everyone's sitting in a circle holding hands and chanting.
Yes.
And they think, oh, no, that's me. I'm going. And they never get to experience the joy and the beauty of it. But no wonder if I hadn't experienced that before and I walked into a room of chanting people, I would just turn around and walk out.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's how you got into hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
How did that eventually lead to creating the world's first meditation app?
Well, it was a series of coincidences that just led to me connecting with someone who was building apps. So I always had recordings. In actual fact, I started off on cassettes, which is, you're probably way too young to remember cassettes.
Our parents still have a hoard of cassettes in our closet.
Hoard is the right word.
But we're like, where are you going to use these?
I know, it's old technology, but people were really fond of them and they were very easy to record onto.
Mm.
And then I started making CDs. And then when MP3s came out, I started thinking that I could sell them online. I was really early into the internet.
Yeah.
I think I've had a website for probably over 25 years.
Wow.
And then in 2008, just as the iPhone came out and they were announcing the App Store, I get contacted by a chap in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that him and his wife had been using my Deep Sleep CD.
Oh, wow.
And loved it. And he was, as a hobby, he was doing apps.
Uh-huh.
And the App Store is going to go worldwide, and would I consider doing this? And I had thought about it previously because I'm a bit of a tech nerd and an Apple fanboy. And I had been putting out these vibes that I wanted. It would be great to have an app store or an app.
Yeah.
And we had a verbal agreement. We started, and maybe about 3 months later, the first app was launched.
Wow.
January 2009, and it just took off from there. Mike and I, my business partner, we had a very amicable split maybe 2 years ago. So I've got control of all the apps, and I think I've got probably 24 or 25 apps on the App Store.
Wow.
For a variety of subjects. That was the transition for me from working one-to-one with clients and doing groups, coming into the sort of the digital side of things. And it's been a great transformation.
When I think about 2008, 2009, like around that time, Sammy and I were still sharing a flip phone. So I think, just in context for how early that really is, like, I don't think, I mean, we were young, but we didn't know the iPhone was going to be as big as it was.
Yeah.
And I think even to have an eye to put out an app back then is such good foresight. Sammy and I were talking to, have you ever read The Alchemist?
Yes. Paulo Coelho.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so he always talks about his quote, which is, when you want something, what is it?
All the universe conspires in helping you achieve it.
Yeah. And it really feels like that's, I mean, what's been happening a lot in your career, especially when you've aligned. But even then, like, to have somebody, like you said, to put out vibes, to want to have an app and have someone reach out to you, I'm assuming at that time across the world.
Yep.
It's just, I feel like you can't put into words like why things like that happen.
Well, it's a wonderful story, and you could say it was fate or chance or blind luck, or you could say it was the universe coming together and creating something. And it's hard to see. I know that Mike and I, we never had any expectations of what the apps would do. It was a new technology.
Yeah.
The iPhone came out in America before it came out in Europe, maybe 6 months before it came out in Europe. And so did the App Store. So when the app started selling, they were just selling in America. I couldn't even access the App Store at that point.
Wow.
So it was real basic stuff.
Yeah.
But it just evolved, and then other carriers in America took it. They launched the phone in Europe. They launched the App Store in Europe. They launched the App Store worldwide. Then the Android came along, and we built for Android as well. And
wow.
It was a bit of a journey.
Yeah, definitely.
And great fun.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Imagine.
it sounds like you leaned into your passions, like meditation, and at the same time, geeking out on this new technology too. And yeah, I think a lot of people, they want to feel safe. They want to find a career. They want to do something that they know is going to work out. But I think sometimes leaning into those passions really, really leads you in a direction you can't predict.
Absolutely. You've got to follow your bliss. You've got to find something that fills your soul. And that doesn't need to be anything spectacular. That can be any job as long as you're satisfied with it.
Yeah.
I never went into becoming a therapist to make money. It just happened when the App Store took off.
Yeah.
And when I was doing some corporate work, but it was never about making money.
Right.
And someone once said to me, and it's something I tell people a lot, if you do it for money, you won't love it. And if you love it, you might not make the money. And there's that fine balance between doing something you love, but knowing your value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of people find difficult to balance out. A lot of people who find something that they absolutely love doing, it doesn't seem like work to them, because this never seems like work to me. But then we think, well, because I'm not working, and this just feels like a hobby to me, maybe I shouldn't charge for it. And then people can't survive in the job they do.
Yeah.
So that's this fine balance of finding something you love, but making sure that you're at least paying the bills to start with.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's such a good message for people right now, too, because there are so many people coming out of this pandemic, like really rethinking what's important to them and how that aligns with their careers and what they're doing. And
for sure,
people are taking time off and figuring that out. And I think something that we really believe in is that it's not necessarily easy, but if there are things that align with what you like to do, whether that's in your career or on the side, that can really grow in ways that you can't expect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people will ask about what's made the app successful, and there's no doubt that the apps originally were well built, and there's no doubt the recordings are good, because I had all these years of experience of talking to clients before I started recording.
Mm-hmm.
But I also need to say longevity is important.
Yeah.
If you find something, sticking at it is really important.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people will say to me, well, the foresight of doing the apps, but I had been not burned financially, but I knew that when the CD player came out, you could burn CDs on a desktop computer. I knew that cassettes were going to be long gone.
Yeah.
And it took a while. And then when the iPod came out and MP3 players came out, I knew that CDs wouldn't be around for long. And it shocked me how quickly the technology changed. And people I would give clients CDs and they would say, I don't have a CD player anymore. And I would think, wow. And so when the App Store came out, I'm thinking, okay, so I need to be there first. I need to get into something like this first, because with what I do, which is basically a recording, the recording doesn't change. It's just how you play it that changes.
Yeah, it's so true.
And now, of course, all the downloads have gone and it's all streaming.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's been a big change too. So apps and streaming have changed the world for audio producers and video producers.
Yeah, definitely. And I did want to ask you, so you trained in meditation and hypnotherapy. I kind of sense there's a common ground there. Do you see a common ground between the two?
Yes, there's a huge common ground. You know these Venn diagrams, like the circles and the interlink?
Yes.
So hypnotherapy has two parts. The first one is the hypnosis, which is guiding someone down in hypnosis. We call it trance.
Mm-hmm.
And that stage, if anyone's been into meditation, they will find that incredibly similar physically and emotionally. And then there's the therapy part of hypnotherapy, which is what you say when people are in that state.
Mm.
Because in that state, the conscious mind is quietened down, just like meditation, and you're able to offer positive suggestions to the unconscious mind that will break habits and increase positivity and increase confidence and reduce pain and things like that. A lot of people think that clinical or hypnotherapy is some form of control, but it couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
So, for example, any hypnotherapist, maybe not nowadays, but certainly 20 years ago, any hypnotherapist would start off helping people stop smoking because it's got a great success rate.
Okay, yeah.
It's much more successful than any other treatment because any smoker will tell you it's much more of a habit than an addiction. It's a habit that keeps people smoking. But when people came in to see me and I would say, why do you want to stop? And they would say, well, I don't. This happened a few times. I don't really want to stop, but my wife wants me to stop. I'd have to say to them, there's nothing I can do. Absolutely nothing I can do. I can't make you stop smoking. And as I jokingly have said over the years, when people say, oh, I don't like hypnosis or hypnotherapy because you're controlling people, and I will say, well, if I could make people lose weight, I would be the richest man in the world. I can only help people as long as people are sort of 51% of the way there to make a decision. You can help people, and it's very powerful, helping people do what they want to do.
Yeah.
Now, in the middle ground of that Venn diagram, you have things like guided meditation. So someone will use a variety of techniques to guide someone down into a deep state of relaxation, mental and emotional and physical, and then take them on a little journey. And sometimes that journey has a purpose about getting clarity or finding your bliss or boosting your confidence or meeting your inner guide.
Mm-hmm.
And to a degree, you could say that's sort of shifting more from meditation into the hypnotherapy side of things. And then there's pure meditation, which really, although there's a huge variety of methods, pure meditation is really about going within and just quieting the mind to see what comes up, to connect with your inner self. So rather than guiding someone there, you're helping someone into a state where they're getting wisdom about themselves without any guidance from me. And then, of course, there's mindfulness, which is a completely different thing too. So
yeah.
So there are huge similarities.
Yeah. We've practiced a little bit of both, and I think we found both useful in different scenarios. I remember one time I was having test anxiety, like for a test that I had to take. And I found the anxiety was really blocking me from being able to study. And meditation just, it wasn't getting deep enough or I wasn't able to really clear my mind enough to relax. And I used hypnotherapy. And it's funny because I would do the hypnotherapy and then 20 minutes later, I'd be like ready to study.
Yeah.
I think they both have utilities in different settings. And it's interesting because we try to, we're telling our friends, trying to convince them about meditation because we found it and it's so great. But I do see like people have a little bit of a barrier to meditation or hypnotherapy or these kind of things. What do you find in your practice?
Well, it's a different sort of thing for me because if anyone comes to see me, they've already overcome whatever issues they had with the therapy or the session. What I do notice, however, is when I was doing corporate work and a team of colleagues would be brought in. So 20 years ago or 15 years ago, I would be doing what I would call a stress toolbox. I would go into corporates and I would teach them in person how to relax. But in actual fact, at the end of the day, I would say to them, now, if you ever think about trying hypnosis, this is the feeling. You've been doing it. It's just a different label. It's just a different label. And so in the last 10 years, as meditation has been more widely accepted, I've gone into corporates either in person or online and talked to groups of people, some of whom don't really want to be there because they've been invited and they need to be there, but they don't really want to be there.
Yes.
And so I've found a variety of methods of just helping people relax. And I use what's called the salami method, which is it's just a tiny little slice to have a little taste to say, how'd you like that? And most folk will go, yeah, that's pretty good. And then you go, okay, well, let's have another slice. Try this with the breathing. How'd you like that? And they go, oh, yeah, that's absolutely fine. And then by the time we get 3 or 4 techniques in, folk are going, I love this. This is great. But if you go straight in, okay, close your eyes. Let's call on the great unicorn of meditation to cross over the rainbow bridge and let's all go, that, which is all good. But recently I've launched an app called Working Mindfully, which is introducing meditation and mindfulness to the corporate market.
Oh, yeah.
And our tagline is all the good stuff without the woo-woo.
Yes.
Because that's what scares people. I don't want the woo-woo, they say. I don't want the cross-legged, and I don't want the chanting, and I don't want the tree hugging, and I don't want the crying, and I don't want... And so we've stripped that right back to allow people to go on their own journey.
Yeah.
Now, this is what I find fascinating. You can get someone who is very resistant to meditation and the woo-woo stuff, and you introduce them to the practicalities of basic meditation, of breathing, of physical relaxation, of visualization, of all those things that most people find beautiful. And then sometimes, and this has happened on a number of occasions, maybe 3 or 4 years later, I get an email and it says something like, I used to be an accountant and I hated thinking that I was going to do meditation. And you did a day with this and I really liked it. And I started practicing now. And 2 years later, I'm in Bali doing a yoga training session. Yeah, so but the point is that what's happened is that they have discovered their own journey.
Mm-hmm.
Not me telling them this is what you will do, because that scares people.
Yeah.
It's just an introduction. So I would imagine that is my sort of life's work, which is introducing people to this magical world that has too many wrong ideas. So many people have an idea of yoga and meditation. For the point I'm making here is that yoga, not that I practice a great deal these days, but yoga is one of the most amazing things you can do for yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
It is incredibly beneficial, just like meditation. But people think, I know I should try yoga. And then they look at pictures of people who are bent over backwards
Yes.
and shaped like a pretzel, and they immediately think, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they back off from it.
Yeah.
So everything I've done, including the imagery on my websites, has always been about demystifying it.
Yeah, definitely. I think we both see that in your work. It's very approachable. You don't feel like you have to know anything about any religions or any history about anything. You can just come in and relax.
Yeah.
I think that's why it reaches out to so many people. But also, I mean, I do feel like you have a very authentic voice. There's just something very genuine about you. There's something you really feel that you're here just to help people relax.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, really, I mean that. Do you have any idea where that comes from? Do you think that's related to your history of meditation as a child?
Well, I think there's a few parts to that. Number one, I love what I do, and I've longevity again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But secondly, and I'm going to get into a bit of woo-woo here.
Yeah.
When you work with a client and they are with you for an hour and they have opened up about what they want to, an issue in their life, and you do a session with them, you very quickly learn to be there, completely present with them. Completely present.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been many, many times in my therapeutic career where someone will come in with an issue and I'll think, oh my God, what the hell am I going to say? I've got no idea.
Yeah.
But we start the relaxation procedure, we start the hypno part of the hypnotherapy or the meditation part, and I myself go into relaxation. I go into meditation. I'm very present with them, but I'm in a meditative state. And all of a sudden, up come the solutions, up come the things that I should say. I'm not saying I know it all, but because of so many years, I have got so many techniques that I can use. Now, that's when I did my hypnotherapy training, we were told that was the mysterious of X factor. The connection, there's more than just two of you, there's something else going on, a healing process going on. And so when I started recording, as I said earlier, I'd already been doing 16, 17, 18 years of one-to-one sessions and group work. So when I do a recording, I'm in trance and I believe I'm talking to one person. And I think that might be the biggest secret, because people will say to me, I felt as if you were talking to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I felt that it was quite intimate in a sort of, in the sense of that word being, you're just talking to me.
Right.
I also believe that there's a lot of people who will record something and the mastering, the engineering will remove the humanity from it.
Yeah,
The
that's
breaths
true.
and sometimes it becomes too clinical.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
So I try and find the balance to make it sound as if it's really me.
I think I can definitely speak to having that experience where I don't know if it's partially just being able to select the specific topics that I can say, okay, visualize success. That's what I'm trying to do right now. But it's hard to describe. When I'm listening to it, it really does feel like you're specifically talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly 17 million other people feel that way as well. But it really resonates. And I think it helps.
It's either 17 million people or one person who's listened 17 million times.
That's true. It could just be me. I mean, to hear you say that part of it is to be present when you're recording and to feel as though you're talking to one person, I think that's what makes the experience so intimate. Even though it is on an app and even though it's on your phone, it feels like you're speaking to a greater human experience, but also something that when I'm listening to it, I will get so hyped up sometimes. Like I'll be like, yes, I can do this. There are just some times where your message really, really resonates with me. So I'm not surprised to hear that it's something that you do with a lot of intention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a part of us that can sense that.
Thanks, guys. That's really nice.
We did want to know, what are you working on right now?
Well, in the last year, I've launched 2 major apps. One, I've always wanted to have a subscription app.
Yeah.
And we launched that last year and then did a little bit of rebranding earlier this year. It's called Relax, Change, Create, and it's got all my recordings on it, everything I've ever done, 400 plus recordings.
Wow.
And the reason that I wanted that was that individual apps have become real difficult and expensive to build.
Yeah.
But also, I've been a little bit fed up with the fact that some people, the way traditionally all the apps were built, where if you bought it on the iPhone and you bought 10 of them, and then 3 years later you decided to go to Android, you'd have to buy them again.
Yeah, that's so
like
true.
Xbox and PlayStation.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas Relax, Change, Create, you create a user account. If you want to subscribe, you pay through Apple or Android, and you can change phones. You can get it on your iPad, and there's no extra cost to that. Now, what we found with the subscription app is that a lot of my fans bought a lifetime license when we launched. Some bought a discounted yearly license. And some people will come on, buy it for a month, get what they want, and leave. So they maybe want better sleeping or better, they want to stop smoking or whatever. And that's great. So it works for everyone. So that's the first one, Relax, Change, Create. The second one is Working Mindfully, which is the same sort of idea, but much more specifically targeted to corporates. And that only launched maybe 6 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So that's been keeping me busy. And lastly, I've been doing an awful lot of live meditations.
Oh,
So
awesome.
at the start of pandemic, I went on to Facebook and Instagram because I've got some nice followers on there.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I'll start doing a morning meditation. And I started on Facebook, then moved over to Instagram half an hour later. And then quite quickly, I was approached by a company who were launching a live meditation app called Circles Live, and they wanted me to help launch it.
Oh, wow.
So here we are. Today, at 8 o'clock in the UK, I'm on day 520 something of live meditations every morning.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And that has given me a really, really renewed love of a daily timed meditation practice.
Yeah.
Because I'd lost that for such a long time because I was meditating whenever I felt I needed it. But now, 8 o'clock till 8:30 every morning, I'm doing this. And for anyone listening, on Monday to Thursday, it's free of charge. You can just download the app and watch free of charge. And I've got people in the United States that set an alarm for 2 in the morning,
Oh.
watch my meditation, and then fall asleep again.
Yeah. Definitely. And what was the name of the app again?
It's called Circles Live.
Circles Live.
So Circles as in Circles Live.
Perfect.
And they've got a bunch of teachers that you can go on and watch live.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And we'll make sure to share all the links and everything that you've mentioned in our show notes as well, so that people can easily find it and
Thanks, guys.
follow you if they're interested. I'm not even surprised to hear that people turn it on at 2 a.m. because I love meditating before I sleep. It gets me in a really good headspace. And a lot of times, even sometimes when I listen to yours, you'll count down and I won't make it to the last one if I'm really tired that day.
Oh, some people fall asleep in the live meditation. So
I'm sure they do.
Yes.
that's the way of it.
With Relax, Change, Create, I've taken a look at it, and there's so many different types of meditations and guided self-care to go through, things people wouldn't even think about. I think there was one on nail biting, I believe it was.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's just, I think that's also really useful because it's very targeted to specific things or general, just depending on what's going on.
Yeah, there is a wide range, and again, a lot of these more therapeutic ones were done in the early days of the App Store, where I would get people reaching out to me and saying, "Can you do an app for this?" or "Can you do an app for that?" And we would sort of gauge the reaction and release one if it was apt. A lot of my focus now is on much more gentler and wide-ranging meditation and mindfulness. And I'm recording more for kids, and I'm
Oh.
recording a couple more sleep stories, which have been really popular.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, sleep stories are great.
Especially for, I think, kids and adults. Honestly, a lot of people are just looking for something soothing to listen to at night.
Yep.
And you definitely have a great combination of having such a soothing voice.
Yes.
As well as, I think, just like the background that you have, combining those things together make it so easy to listen to you. I even if I was a kid, I think it's easy to see how they would like check in and say, okay, I can listen to this. And
Yeah. And again, when you take the mystery out for kids, and I find it especially fascinating that kids, if they get a taste of something that they listen to, and if they then feel better in the morning, they'll be the ones asking for it.
Yeah.
I love that. They soak it up like sponges.
Yeah.
They really do.
Wow.
And it's been really lovely getting some emails from parents. And as I've said to an awful lot of people, the best-selling recording, whether it was cassette or recording or CD or MP3 or app, the individual recording has always been deep sleep.
Oh.
So many people have problems sleeping.
Yes.
From time to time. I think at any one point, it's something like 50 or 60% of people have problems sleeping.
Yeah.
Sometimes for a couple of days, sometimes a couple of weeks, sometimes it goes on for months and years. But deep sleep is one of those things that either works or doesn't. So if you sleep well, my God, you know it's worked.
Yeah, that's true.
And I've always said when I've been doing talks, it doesn't really matter what's going on in anyone's life, whether it's physical or relationships or money or, emotional or anything. If you get a good night's sleep, things are better.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so true.
Maybe not hugely better, but they are definitely better. Sleep is so important.
It really is.
Yeah, I think it's hard because it's one of those things that people talk about. Like people say, oh, sleep is really important, but it's so underrated how, exactly like you said, like it's something that no matter what you're going through, if you can get a good night's sleep, it makes such a difference.
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely huge.
And so much easier said than done, I think, sometimes for people.
Well, the problem is with things like relaxation and sleep and memory, they rely on what's called the law of reversed effect. What that means is if something should happen naturally, like relaxing or remembering something or falling asleep, which it should happen naturally, because people fall asleep and they don't know how they're falling asleep, they just fall asleep.
Yeah.
The harder that you try to fall asleep or relax or remember something, the further away it goes.
Yes.
And that's the law of reversed effect. So when people say, I really need to try and fall asleep, it doesn't work.
Yes.
It's the same as people will say to me, well, I tried meditation. I tried to force myself to meditate, but it didn't work. And you go, well, okay, I understand why you tried to do it, but it's never going to work if you try and force it. You can't force it. You've got to find little techniques that you just melt into it. You just morph into someone who relaxes.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, Andrew, it has been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. I think you really exemplify the status post-adulting message in your own journey with your own life and really pursuing your passions. And then also in the message that you are helping other people with as well. Like, I think both of those really exemplify status post-adulting. And our final question for you is, if you went back to your adulting yourself, your young self trying to figure things out, what advice would you give yourself?
That's a strange one. I realize how lucky I am because I do what I love for a living.
Yeah.
But I would give the advice that I have given to a lot of younger people lately when they say, I think I should do this, but it feels a bit mad.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, have a look at the world. Everything's mad.
Yeah.
Do you think your idea of trying something is madder than what's going on in the world? No. Go for it. Go for it. I mean, don't jump out of a plane without a parachute. That's mad. But there are many things that we can try. And if you find what you love, stick at it, modify it, pivot, change, tweak it, look out for opportunities. And if you follow your bliss, the universe, as you said earlier, will open the doors in front of you. And sometimes you can only follow the breadcrumbs, all the times, in fact. You can only follow the breadcrumbs when you look back.
That's so true.
Sometimes I look back and I go, that's why that happened. Right.
Yeah. Right.
I get it. Thank you.
It's so true.
And gratitude is hugely important. So be grateful.
Yeah.
Yes, we 100% agree with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think too, having a conversation with you and speaking with you over this time, it's easy to see a journey as like a highlight reel, but there are so many things that change, so many challenges. And I think that if you weren't open to following not only your passion and your interest, but also changing with it and adjusting, you'd still be selling cassettes today.
And some people still are.
And who knows, they'll be laughing at us maybe in 10 years. But it's easy to see the end result. But I think that message, it resonates even more to know that you've had your own journey and can still look back and say, okay, maybe some things didn't make sense at the time, but we're so lucky and blessed.
Lots of peaks and lots of troughs, and that's what life is all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ups and the downs.
Yes, exactly.
So the end result isn't really that important. It's the journey that's important.
Andrew, thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thanks, guys.
It's really an honor to have you here. And we're huge fans, so it's just also exciting to just meet you as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think we could
Thanks, guys.
Pick your brain for probably 6 hours on the different things that you know and how you incorporate that into your work. We appreciate just having this time with you and the opportunity to share your work and what you do with our audience as well. So we'll definitely, like I said, share anything mentioned, ways to find Andrew and in our show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way, too, if people want to follow you, are interested in following you in your work, are there good places to find you?
Probably the thing of the moment is Instagram.
Okay. Yeah.
Rather than give out web addresses and things like that. So with Andrew Johnson, WITH, Andrew Johnson. It's JOHNSON. All my recordings started off with, they were all called Stop Smoking with Andrew Johnson or Stress Free with Andrew Johnson. And that was because we realized in the App Store there were going to be many millions of apps. That's why Instagram is with Andrew Johnson.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Connect there, and from my bio, you'll see my website, and it's all there.
We'll definitely link to it. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Andrew.
guys.
We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Any final words or anything we didn't cover that you'd want to share as a message?
No, I think that's it. If anyone's considering dabbling in meditation and mindfulness, find a technique and a voice and a person that you like and just try it. Don't have any agenda. Don't leave your ego at the door and just enjoy it. It can be hugely life-changing.
That's a perfect note to end on.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you again, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks. Take care, guys.